Good morning. Today is Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. This is the Arlington County Board of Equalization hearings. There are four board members present. Mr. Hoffman is absent, and there are four cases on the agenda. The first case is RPC 340202273 at 1550 Crystal Drive. Mr. Warren, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property, sir. Mr. Warren?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can.
Sorry about that.
Okay,
Before I start, just to confirm, I think there's only one case left. Is that correct? Today? It should be just the 1550. Okay.
Yeah, we just have to address them for the record. But yes, you only have the one that you're presenting. So
okay, understand. Okay, yes, I will start. Good morning, Chris. Good morning to the board. I'm going to start on page 30 of 174 of the board's county response memo, which is our summary of facts. This is the Crystal Drive 2 office property located at 1550 Crystal Drive. It is comprised of one tax RPC. It's currently assessed for 2025 at $162,495,100 or $289 a square foot. The value we're asking for from the board today is a value of $125,110,900 or $225 a square foot. This is an older office building, originally built in 1980, 13 stories, 554,847 square feet of leasable space in the National Landing submarket. Again, the property is an older build, originally built in 1980, and is within walking distance of the Crystal City Metro Station. Reverting back now to page 3 of 174 in the county's office income and expense summary, you'll find the columns in blue, A, B, C, and E, the last 4 years of reporting history at the subject property, along with the county's original assessment in column D and their test column in column G. Following the appeal to the board, you will see that the county increased their gross potential income in their test column upon review of the 2024 calendar year financials that were submitted in the I&E survey from $22.4 million to $23.9 million. And even though that gross potential or effective gross income that was reported at the subject property experienced a decrease year over year, the assessment value for 2025 represents a 7% increase from the prior year, from $151.7 million in 24 to $162.5 in 2025. Meanwhile, actual NOI reported year over year from 23 to 24 actually decreased by 12% in 2025, and that's in line with the county's reassessment for office properties in general. For the 2025 reassessment, the average office property, and that's in their guidelines, experienced an 11% decrease in total value, whereas you're seeing this subject property, which has had experienced revenue decrease year over year, as well as vacancy increase. You're seeing an increase in the total assessment value, 7% from 24 to 25. Going back to their revenue estimates, they did increase gross potential income in their test column. The county also revised their vacancy from 13% in their original analysis to 18% in their test column, which resulted in an effective gross income of $20.1 million in their test column. Which again, is overall an increase from the original assessment when compared to column E, which is the actual effective gross income that was reported at the subject property of $18.5 million in 2024. You'll see effective gross income did decrease substantially from 23 to 24, from $20.8 million in 2023, $20.9 million to that $18.5 million most recently in 2024. And a lot of that had to do with the actual vacancy that was reported at the subject property. you'll find information regarding the vacancy on page 5, or excuse me, page 32. The county was initially estimating vacancy of just 11.7% and applying a 13% vacancy rate as per their guidelines. However, upon review, they did increase that to 18%. However, the actual vacancy that was reported at the subject property as of 1/1/2025 in the rent roll was 19%, which would indicate the use of a 23% vacancy rate as per the 2025 county assessment guidelines. Making that adjustment alone in the county's test column would result in a revised value from the 168,672,000 to 156,901,900. So at the very least, we would ask the county to recognize what the actual vacancy was at that property and place it in that range as indicated by the county's guidelines, which would indicate the use of a 23% vacancy rate. The county revised their expenses slightly from $9.25 to $9 a square foot. We were using $9 a square foot as well. It's not one of the bigger issues with the property. Lastly, the thing we would like to bring up is with regard to the cap rate. We have, again, I don't want to go too deep into this, but we have supplied what we think is market data and market support, RERC, PwC fourth quarter surveys that would indicate a much higher cap rate. The Corpez cap rate survey indicates an average office cap rate for market occupancy at 8.88%. And the county is using a base rate currently of 7.742%. The other thing that we do want to highlight is this, again, is an older build property. It's built in 1980, but it's getting applied a effective rate of a cap rate in their guidelines. The effective age is 1995 for the subject property, which results in a cap rate when you look at the county's guidelines for cap rates of 120 basis point lower cap rate applied than what the actual year built of this property is. If you were to apply a 1980 to 1984 cap rate range, the county should be applying a 10.143% cap rate adjustment. And it tends to be a very subjective estimate by the county when it comes to cap rates in these older age buildings. This property has retained the original facade and foundation of a 1980 office property build. It's not in line with some of the other assets that's owned by the same client. 241 18th Street is a 1985 build, located very close, just to the south, 0.2 miles from the subject property, and has an effective age of 1980. 201 12th Street and 200 12th Street, 201 12th Street was built in 1987. Again, retains the original facade and foundation. No major renovations have been done. That's being used or applied an effective age of 1987 with regard to the cap rate, and the same with 200 12th Street, built in 1985, is being applied with a 1985 effective cap rate per the county guidelines. So it doesn't really make sense why this property is being assessed such a lower assessed based on such a lower cap rate in comparison to some of the comparable properties immediately around the subject property. Again, this property has experienced a high amount of vacancy.
Okay.
They had.
You got to wind up
Okay.
here. Your time expired. Oh, okay. All right.
Oh,
Mr. Chief,
you say it has not expired yet?
it has expired. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Mr. Cheekas for the county, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, board members. Good morning, Mr. Warren. I'll primarily be focusing on pages 3, 4, and 5. That will be the summary sheet showing 4-year history and include reconstructions to show the actual gross potential as opposed to the actuals provided, the rent roll, and the test. And specifically, we'll start with the test itself in the sense that, of course, as the board knows, once we receive new information with the appeal package to include the 2024 INE, rent roll, et cetera, we're able to either confirm our original projections or offer a potential revision based upon the information that we did receive. When we look at that, again, we can look at not only the INE in column E, but also, of course, the reconstruction, which again, the board is familiar with, which is the application of the vacant space that's neglected on the actuals that's provided. When you see that, you can actually see that the reconstruction is very much in play with what was received the year before, in the sense of some occupied space, as well as the vacant space being credited at quite a low per square foot number. That number is echoed by the appellant, but it misses the mark by quite a bit. When we look at the rent roll that was in place, again, I believe that's page 4. We can see that in 2024, there was 7 leases signed, and the average of those leases signed was actually some $13 higher than what was achieved, what was projected for the rental rate that's in place. And again, that would make it even some $15 higher than what's used by the appellant themselves. So we don't need to look too far to see what the asking rents are, especially at this property. We actually believe that's tied into a bit of the last comments made by the appellant, in the sense that this property actually has been renovated quite a bit. It was renovated over a 1.5-year process time frame from 2020 through 2021, at which point they added new amenities to include Wi-Fi enabled conference center, presentation workspaces, dedicated kitchens for private catering events, spacious second floor terrace exclusively for tenant use. So clearly the renovations have been done at the property. In regards to the idea that it's a subjective nature of what the year should be, we don't necessarily disagree with that, but clearly it's beyond the 1980s as wished upon by the appellants. Back to the test itself. Again, we invite the board to look at the rent roll that's in place. Please note the building's actually fairly well tenanted as far as the office space itself. And please also note the tenants that are there. Highly credited tenants to include 4 different GSA leases totaling over 100,000 square feet alone. The Japan Ministry of Defense, Booz Allen Hamilton, March of Dimes Foundation. Not only these highly credited tenants, these tenants are actually in place. Some of them are going to be in place longer than I will be employed by the county. These go through 2035, 2034, 2033, 2027, 2033, 2034, and again, all with escalations in place. Please note too that unfortunately we actually asked about some of the free concessions that were part of the reason for the decrease in effective gross was a large amount of concessions, free rent that was offered in the year 2024. We inquired about that on September 1st, as you can see in the board packet. And unfortunately, we heard yesterday the answer to our interrogatories that were, what's going on with this free rent if it doesn't necessarily imply lease renewals? We were told that, in fact, there are lease renewals in place, and I noted that the rents that you can see underneath annualized rent on the rent roll is quite a bit lower than what we projected in our test in column G. That was because, of course, we didn't have the exact amount of free rent available, but we did know that there was some free rent that was going to occur during that time period. In the response to the county, we did learn that most of that free rent burned off in 2024, with approximately 5 months of that to incur this year, 2025. We actually ended up giving them quite a bit more in concessions than they actually, the owner is going to actually incur in the year 2025. Please note, again, the annualized rent that's indicated on the rent roll versus the office rent that's indicated on the test. It's approximately $2.5 million lower than what's being achieved in 2025, with again, out any adjustment for rent escalations, which again is very common, 2 to 3% a year. Again, for the next somewhat of 10 years for some of these leases. In regards to the idea of not adjusting for the different vacancy rates and things like that, you can actually see in our test, there's at the bottom of that page, it lists the net leasable area. It appears that the appellant is off by about 4,000 square feet or so, as we calculate 558,756 net leasable area. And again, it's important to note, while we show 104,187 of vacant space, approximately 3,900 of that is storage space. So that wouldn't be eligible for below the line adjustments for rent loss, TIs, commissions, etc. So the actual office vacancy is 100,318, which would indicate a vacancy percentage of 17.95, comfortably within that 18% range, which is why we applied 18% in the test. As noted, and again, by the appellant themselves, OPEX really isn't an issue. If anything, we're a bit generous, not only on the original assessment, some $500,000 higher than what was achieved. Even in our test, we're another almost $300,000 higher than what was achieved the last year. Again, pointing to the idea that we are covering all of our bases. When we look top to bottom with our test, again, the projections are low compared to what this property is actually achieving, not only with rents in place, but with prospective rents for vacant space. When we're looking at the test in regards to the reconstruction, again, it's very reasonable with what's been going on at the property in place. We've covered the idea of the vacant space. We've covered the occupied space. As noted by the appellant, that's well located within the same block as the Metro for Crystal City. Renovated building, well located with high quality tenants in place. We do believe that the county should be confirmed at a value of $162,495,100. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? No?
Answered.
Okay, Mr. Chikas, if you take a minute to give us any final comments.
Nothing further, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Warren, if you take a minute to give us any final comments.
Yeah, just with regard to the gross potential income, the initial assessment, they used a vacant office rental rate of $34.50 for the occupied space of $35. And then upon review, seeing again that the vacancy increased pretty substantially to 19%. And in some of these renewal leases that did take place, they increased their occupied rental rate to $39 a square foot and their vacant office rental rate to $36 a square foot. If you look at the past 3 years of reporting, this property has reported most recently $3.8 million in rental concessions in 2024, $2.4 million in 23, and $3 million in 2022. They did have 3 of these large tenants, Booz Allen Hamilton being one of them, renew their lease, but that was a downsize. They lost 2 whole floors, approximately 24,000 square feet of rental space. But it appears that none of that is being, again, taken into consideration of more of a net effect of rent and what the impact of these renewals have. They're signing these renewals, yes, but at the cost of a significant rental concession package to be able to release that space, and many times it's having to downsize in that space. Similar with the U.S. Department of Defense that signed their renewal lease November 23. They received 14 months of free rent, $3.2 million, and then the Battelle Memorial Institute signed a renewal lease amendment June of 23 for a lease term of 67 months and had 7 months of free rent or $760,000 a square foot. So that needs to be taken into consideration to the actual net effect of rent that these tenants are paying, and not necessarily the full face value, which appears to be what the county is considering in their current assessment in their test column. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Okay, it's just among the board. Where are folks on this? Mr. Mendez.
Sure. Just to start off, it was a little odd to me that the assessment went up 7% or almost $11 million when the property has lower NOI and GPI year over year. I think the average for office was minus 11%. So I thought that was a little bit odd. And also, I didn't like how the NOI in column D was higher than what was actually reported. So I made a couple of adjustments myself, and I'll see if anybody agrees with me. I changed the vacancy in column D to 18%, and then I actually decreased the expenses to 850. And that got me pretty close to where the NOI that was reported was, and my final value came out to 152, 902 even. So.
Okay. Mr. Penaranda or Mr. Yates?
Yeah, I did also make some calculations, not as far as Mr. Mendez did. I thought the tests went up, with the rental rates pretty much to what they're getting now, and I think I thought the vacancy and concessions were also a little bit off. So that's the only thing that I made an adjustment on. I didn't go to 18% because I think that was a little bit high. It came up to almost $3.5 million. So I went up to 15% on that, and just by making that adjustment, and I left the expenses at 950. I came up with 158,490,900. Based on the original assessment, not the test.
Yeah, that seems closer to also when Mr. Warren had suggested that revising the test column of the vacancy to 23% got it to 156 million. Because I do think it went up pretty significantly here. So I would lean more towards Mr. Penaranda's approach. Mr. Yates, where are you?
Well, I guess I was glad to hear the explanation on the vacancies. That helped a lot and cleared a little of that up. I looked at with column D, given the record, given where the expenses were going, I was okay with the 950. Its costs are going up. I was concerned about the income a little bit. I could go down, but I was actually okay with D. Especially after hearing some of the explanations, answering some of my questions. But if Jose, if that's where the number's going, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, maybe the main reason I did this because I agree. I think the increase of the value is just more than we've seen on most of these properties.
And it's still a substantial increase.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Mr. Mendez, can you live with that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, all right. Mr. Penaranda?
Sure, I'll go ahead and move that we reduce the assessment to 158,490,900, and that's based on increasing the vacancy and concessions on the original assessment to 15%.
Okay, and leaving the expenses alone. Okay, do I have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Mendez? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none, so it is. The assessment is reduced to 158,490,900 based on increasing the vacancy to 15% on the original assessment. Thank you. Okay, the next case, RPC 1602503 at 1201 Wilson Boulevard. That case was asked to be withdrawn on the 16th. I assume, Mr. Chicas, there's no objection?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll move to accept the withdrawal. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Mr. Penaranda, a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that case is withdrawn. The next case, RPC 3402062, was also asked to be withdrawn on the 11th. Any objection, Mr. Chicas?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I move to accept the withdrawal. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay, Mr. Penaranda, all in favor? Aye, oppose, none, so that case is withdrawn. And the last case, RPC 340202233, there's a signed letter from the appellant on that, so that drops from the agenda. So that completes the agenda for today. Does anybody have any other business?
No.
Okay, well then we will stand adjourned at 9:26, reconvene next Tuesday at 9 a.m. virtually for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good day.